You're listening to the StudioPTBO podcast, where we talk all things marketing to help you build and grow your business online. Welcome to the latest episode.
Well, welcome to StudioPTBO podcast. We are back, and we're back at it again with another guest. We have been having a ton of guests over the last week, just trying to provide massive value to our community. And we're super excited to chat today, just about ingenuity, creativity, mindset, and just this really uncertain economic times that we're going through. Really on a mission to help business owners really push through, innovate, get creative with what's happening in the world right now. Especially more than anything, I'm trying to get all my agency owner friends to really provide massive value to the business community, and we're trying to bring people together. So we are so excited to have Brandon Smits on the podcast today. And Neil, man, how you doing? How you holding the fort down? Everything's going good at home?
Yeah, everything's awesome, man. We've had an awesome week, and as you mentioned earlier, we've taped a lot of quality podcasts this week, and different kind of podcasts than we taped other weeks because it's a different kind of world we're living in right now. We're getting really kind of deep, great nuggets from entrepreneurs who are having to sort of pivot or not in real time. Some of them are still doing fine, but others aren't, and are having to completely sort of reverse engineer how they approach business right now. So it'll be really interesting to hear today from another one, Brandon, who's all the way from Indiana, right, Brandon? What part of Indiana are you from?
So I'm in Fort Wayne, Indiana, which is the original home of the Pistons.
Oh.
Really? I didn't know that.
Really?
Yeah, true.
Detroit Pistons?
Yes.
Wow.
Ago when the league first started.
Interesting.
It was also a top 10 World War II target because of some of the manufacturing we had here. But relatively small city, 250,000 people. It's a lovely spot. It was also rated one of the best places to raise kids and live recently. So yeah, I like it here.
You're bigger than us, and Peterborough's about 80,000. That's funny. That is such a good gem because I'm a huge basketball fan, and so is Cody. Like, I'm a basketball junkie. I had no idea the Pistons started in Indiana. So you'll have to tell us that in a future episode. Give us more of the backstory on that. We wanted to talk to you today about your journey, and I guess you should connect the dots, Cody, to tell our listeners, how did you guys meet each other first? Was it on Facebook?
Yeah, man. It's really cool to see kind of what's, everything that's happening kind of in the world of the internet. And it's really cool to see more than anything, kind of the way that you and I got connected was through Cat Howell's Academy. And, Cat's connected me with so many different agency owners, and we got connected through the academy. I'm not exactly sure how long ago you went through the academy. I went through last year. We connected, I think, mainly through the mastermind, and yeah, it's been absolutely incredible. Brandon, posts a ton of content online. I see what he talks a lot in the mastermind, and we got connected through that way. So really, I threw out a post a little while ago in the mastermind, just asking people more than anything, who wants to come on to the podcast to chat about, what's happening in the world and how we can provide value to the community. So I don't really want to steal any more of your thunder, Brandon. Why don't you give us a Spark Notes version of kind of your agency, what you're doing, kind of who you help, the niche that you're working in. And even if that's changed, I guess, over the last 2 weeks.
It hasn't over the last 2 weeks, but it's definitely changed kind of a few times. So one of the things that I've done in the past and still do is I've helped agency owners generate leads on LinkedIn and help build out their brand there. I've also helped a lot of course creators or online coaches use both LinkedIn and Facebook ads. So those have kind of been what I've been doing for years and years. One of my clients approached me and made me an offer to become a partner in his coaching business. And we help solar companies generate leads online. So we have a coaching program and an agency in the solar space. So that's basically who I've been helping.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of lead generation, especially online lead generation, of course.
It's been cool, man. Like you posted something in the mastermind about that you did like kind of like a sell from stage a little while ago, and maybe just walk me through that because that was your first like really like I guess sell from stage experience. Like maybe walk me through that and like kind of like what that even means and what that looks like.
Sure. So we were hosting an event of all of our clients at the company's called Solar Cheat Code. So as I mentioned, we have a program that teaches solar entrepreneurs how to generate leads on Facebook. And we hosted an event with 100 companies. We were trying to give them the updates on the many changes that Facebook has been going through. These guys aren't marketers natively. They're mostly sales guys natively who build companies. So they don't necessarily know a lot about how Facebook operates. And one of the things that we realized that we had to do was kind of up our game in terms of the value that we are providing them. So we'd been working on a few projects and we decided to launch them at the event. So basically what that looked like was trying to figure out, what do these guys actually need? How can we provide it to them? And then also how can we kind of test this offer in a warm audience?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the basics. Feel free, I can expound upon whatever you like.
Yeah, no, I'm really curious because like, what has the solar industry looked like in the last 2 weeks? Like, maybe somebody that is in solar, I know somebody locally that's in solar, who was a past client of ours. And, what does the landscape of solar look like? Is it still booming or like how, I guess, have you helped your current clients navigate through this really weird shift that's happened, where it's like, it's really forced a lot of people go online. I'm not sure if Indiana is like that and what the self-isolation looks like currently there, but here in Peterborough and in Toronto area, like we're in complete self-isolation. It's like you can't go really anywhere other than the supermarket.
Yeah, so Indiana's locked down, as is most of the US, as far as I know. And it definitely has had a huge impact on our community of solar businesses. Some of them have been hit a lot harder than others. I think the main difference is, well, if you're in like Chicago, I know is completely shut down. Like you can't be doing a lot of types of business in Chicago. And a lot of our guys have door knocking teams. Obviously those teams are out of commission right now. So online lead generation became a lot more important. We're seeing a huge uptick in people learning about our program and talking to our team about, making that investment. And that's obviously because what they're doing before isn't going to have the same result in this time. Also, many permitting offices have been shut down. And so in a lot of places, you do need a permit in order to do a solar installation. So for a lot of people, that's a big hurdle that they'll have to figure out. From the homeowner perspective, I think there's actually been a spike in interest in solar power because people have more time and they're online. So it's simultaneously a great time and a terrible time for the solar industry because of that. But you talked about the theme of the show being kind of ingenuity and creativity. So one of the things that we did is we looked at our customer base and said, well, how do we help them through this, right? They're obviously not going to be able to do a lot of the things that they used to do, including show up at someone's house and close the deal. Solar is primarily sold in the home. So, we immediately put together a remote sales training program that we offered for free to anybody who wants it. And we saw, 500 people signed up for it without much promotion on our part.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. But, a lot of people aren't super familiar with tech like Zoom, which we're using right now. But, we put together some training on both the sales side and the tech side of how to be successful when you're trying to sell remotely, because the truth is that people still want it. So, what I've seen is that the businesses who are more flexible and say, hey, we'll do whatever it takes to get solar power on the homes of our prospects who want it, they're seeing a lot more success than people who are a little more rigid about it, or people who are nervous about the conversion rate going down because of remote sales. So I think one thing that's important for anybody in a situation like this is to think about how can I potentially be better, right? Every setback that an entire industry will see creates opportunity of some form. You could choose to focus on either the opportunity or the disadvantage that you're operating at. But as usual with entrepreneurs, the people who focus on the opportunity are the ones who see more success, and the people who are willing to make the shift and try things and have it maybe not go as well as it would have normally, they're seeing the benefit.
So far from it, you didn't see any kind of cliff in your industry, and if anything, your retention rate's higher than normal, and you're getting new clients, new interest, more engagement.
That's true. I would say we had a few clients who had to pause. Some of them were like at ground zero of like the outbreaks in places like New York and in places like Chicago, and they're at a standstill. They can't operate. There are many other places where you can operate though, and so we have seen some, like, it has affected us, but the interest level in what we do and what we help companies do is going way higher. We expect that we'll feel it a little later than everybody else because of that, depending on what happens, right? If everyone does get shut down over the next month or 2 months, then, obviously that will slow the interest. But if you are an entrepreneur and you're looking at your business pipeline, you have to consider now to be a great time to focus on building that brand awareness and looking at what you can do to really help the people who you're trying to serve in this moment. If you can figure it out right now, you're always going to be able to figure it out.
Yeah. I was wondering about, we talked to other Facebook marketers who had niches, and some verticals are collapsing right now, depending on what sector you're in. And as you said, right now you're healthy, but you don't know. So what are the pros and cons in your mind? And have you considered ever having to pivot to another area if things do get worse in the next few months? What is your contingency plan?
For the solar business, we kind of don't have one. We've built such a strong brand there. I don't think that we need to really worry about survival just yet. As far as a broader contingency plan for most advertisers, I think one of the things that you have to look at is just, these industries will come back. It's more about survival from now until then to me than it is about, and like, what can you do? Can you actually still help people somehow? Now's a great time to like work on the longer term marketing efforts. If you can't do anything, you can't do business, you can still prepare, right? You can still be working on improving things. I mean, marketing work is never done, right? It's always ongoing. Yeah. But as far as like, if you've seen a big loss in your industry, or you're kind of out because of everything that happened, it is a challenging time. But I think the thing to do is look for somewhere in the value chain where business can keep going, and look to just seek to help first. The opportunity comes after that. I've helped so many people with prospecting. This is something I've seen time and time again. Like, focus on generating relationships, not leads. And your pipeline will always be there. Yeah. Because if you're more transactional in the way that you approach getting new business, you're also going to see transactional results with your clients. So it's important to look at where you want to be in the long term. And I think, shifting towards a relational strategy in terms of getting more business it's a particularly good time to do that now.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Like, there's two elements behind that. We had Kathleen Black on our show not too long ago. She's a real estate coach. Talked a lot about how you can't, like, you have to be focused on the 30, 60, 90-day window and the 1 year window. It's like, you can't just shut off your business and expect to pick it back up. It's like, you have to find different ways to become innovative and find different, revenue streams if that revenue stream may have dried up. So I'm really curious to know specifically, like, you mentioned that you have the solar business, but you've done other things in the past. It's like, I guess, like, with your solar business, like, are you still running the other agencies as well? Or is it just, have you gone all in on solar?
So I do have some space. I mean, I'm pretty busy. I spend a lot of my time on the solar,
Yeah.
Side of things and making sure. I mean, we're a really small team, so I expect that team to grow pretty soon. But and there's a lot that we're doing to overhaul the entire operation. So that keeps me pretty busy. We're doing we have a tech product that is coming soon, and that takes a lot of time. And I'm product lead on that and CMO on that, and I run the agency. So like I'm pretty busy there. However, I do take on when it's a good fit, I will take on other online coaches who have information product or group coaching. Mostly group coaching is kind of my specialty.
Yeah.
And then also I have a team that does LinkedIn lead generation in the other industry, and we're looking at sort of scaling our effort there.
Yeah, no, I've really seen like I've been watching what you've been doing on LinkedIn, and it's super innovative in the agency space. So it's like, it's cool to see that people are, even innovating from an advertiser, where I'm seeing a lot of people shift to LinkedIn lead generation. So I'm curious, like maybe walk us through what you're doing to generate leads on LinkedIn. Like, the Facebook ad space, people kind of have an understanding of what happens in that space, and because we've talked about it in the past, but like, how are you generating leads for businesses in the LinkedIn space?
Sure. So the popular metaphor that I've been using most recently is it's kind of like business dating, right? It's similar in a way to networking, right? It's kind of a networking platform, if you will. In fact, that's like really people think of LinkedIn as a place to put your job resume and potentially find new jobs. Now, LinkedIn has changed a lot over the past few years. There's video features now. There's LinkedIn influencers are coming into play. And there are a lot of people who are looking to take their business to the next level on LinkedIn. So it is a good place to create business opportunity for yourself and with others. Mm-hmm. Really what I teach people how to do, or what I help people do, is turn their profile into kind of a lead magnet, right? Now, I take the long approach with it. A lot of people take a more short-term approach, but my goal is always to help people generate relationships, because LinkedIn has such a high quality of potential prospects that if you take the short view of whether or not they're on your calendar or not, I think that you do yourself a long-term disservice. Now, I live in a very digital marketing world where we're not very patient, right? We want immediate results from things to measure like the ROI. And usually there is some, only about 5 to 10% of your market is in the discovery phase or searching for your solution, right? Yeah. So if you want to go after the long tail of that market and the best versions, like the best potential clients in there, you do want to take a longer strategy. A lot of times they're not planning, say if you're in marketing, they're not planning to switch agencies, right? Mm-hmm. Only a small percentage of them are actually in the buying phase for that. So what you want to do is you want to create a relationship with people and find people you want to work with. I'm big on this. Like, I will not work with people who I don't really like, and certainly who I don't trust. Yeah. So I have that filter in place, and I coach, the people who I help with lead generation to do the same thing. Make sure that what you say in your profile and the messages that you send the people that you're connecting with actually line up. So I did mention messaging. That is sort of one of the core ways to warm up these kinds of relationships or create them from scratch. And I do think it's fascinating. There's a lot of ways now online that we meet people, like how Cody and I have met through a group, and what I've found is in the past 2 years since I joined Cat's Academy is like the number of really successful, incredible, brainy, creative agency owners that I know has gone through the roof, to the point where it's kind of replaced, my pre-existing group of friends or people who I hear from the most in my Facebook feed. Like, I mostly only see these people. And
I hear you there for sure. Yeah.
LinkedIn, the same thing happens. So really the approach that I take is kind of like business dating in that sense. And your profile shouldn't be a resume, but it should be like a Tinder page, right? Where people are seeing you, seeing the value that you provide, and determining whether that's relevant enough to accept a connection request from you or send you a connection request. That's the beginning of the strategy. And then it's about sort of messaging them back and forth in a non-intrusive, non-salesy way, where you're not asking or trying to take something from the relationship, but you're giving something. And that also shouldn't be too salesy, because like sending you a PDF of a case study is like that's a pretty salesy thing, even though you might say, look at all the value I'm giving you by telling you the story of success I've had with the client. The LinkedIn populace is not, they're aware of what you're doing. And so you want to take care with how you approach people.
Yeah. It's a relationship build, like you're saying. It's and you have to be authentic in it. And I equate it to I said in a talk a few weeks ago. It's like on LinkedIn, my game is like having a mullet, where your business at the front and party at the back. So it's like it's sort of got to be a mix of who you are, and people don't have to see LinkedIn as all business anymore. I think it's really changed. I post a lot of different content there. We've got a lot of different leads off stuff that's super, super soft, like community stuff we're involved in, philanthropy. Like it's not, the rules of engagement there have changed. And I think you're clearly reflecting that in how you approach it. The final question we had for you is really about, we ask all these entrepreneurs about mindset. So obviously mindset, it's a roller coaster journey being an entrepreneur as it is. And now the world we live in is completely different than the world we were in a week ago. So how do you look after your mindset, your resilience factor, your mental health? How do you maintain that, and where did that come from?
So I would say that it's come from mentors, right? People who I've met with. I think one of the biggest ones is the CEO of a company called Sweetwater. They're actually based here in Fort Wayne. I used to work for them. They sell musical equipment to to studio owners. So, and anybody, that category has grown in no small part thanks to that company, who takes a very relational approach to selling. And one of the things that he said to me when I got hired in 2010, and that was very clear, was they saw astronomical growth during the recession. And he said, we elected not to participate in the recession. And this was like a really big mindset lesson for me, because the numbers said that they should have been down. The numbers also said that their industry was going to shrink, yet they were able to, post huge revenue growth and like employee count growth in this very difficult time. And when I really looked at why that business was successful, it occurred to me that it's because every single detail of that entire business is built on how the customer benefits from what they do, right? And so I think like taking an attitude of service for me is the best mindset cleanser, because when I am thinking about others in my own behavior, I find that it doesn't matter what I think anymore. And I need to show up in order to be of service. And that helps me cleanse probably more than anything else. And also it allows me not to be so self-deprecating, because I know that my intent is on being effective and helping other people. It's easier for me to deal with that. Because I think the flip side of mindset is if you're overly critical of yourself, it's not really the flip side of mindset, but it's a part of it, right? If you have aggressive goals and you don't meet one or two of them, some people derail just because of that. I think it's a balancing act of making sure that you understand why you're doing the things you're doing, and that why is enough to drive you, and continually be more self-aware about what you're doing and how you can do things better. That's what it's working.
Yeah, that's great.
I love that. Like I love that, because like I was on a call the other day with Stan, and he was talking about the fact that just this idea that if you just show your clients and your prospects that you actually give a damn, that everything changes. It's like, things just naturally will come your way. It's like, you have to lead with service. I love how you said lead with service. And, I really hope anyone listening to this really gets that whatever sector you're in, whatever niche you're in, if you can lead with service and lead with how can the end consumer benefit from what I'm giving, then oh man, the Sweetwater thing, we chose not to participate in the recession. Like that's just like phenomenal. And Brennan, man, I really appreciate your time, and I just really appreciate your insight. There's so many cool things that we chatted about today, and really appreciate your friendship and just everything that you're posting in the Academy Mastermind and just on your page. Like you said, like your feed is constantly filled with people in your mastermind. I feel the exact same way. It's always these people that are just shedding positivity. How do we do this better? How do we overcome this obstacle? It's just like, I guess the last thing I want to leave everyone with today is just audit your Facebook feed. Like over this next little time, it's like, if your Facebook feed is full of people who are complaining, then you need to change your Facebook feed. Like unfollow some people.
Yeah, well, that goes for life in general.
Yeah, 100%. But I think Facebook feed even more now though, because like as I'm scrolling, I'm like, God, like I understand, but like it's the glass half full, glass half empty. It's like, we're gonna get through this.
More important than ever now. I agree, Cody. And having empathy for others, and that's what Brendan's saying, and understanding what others are going through right now. So this has been great. It's a pleasure to meet you, Brendan.
Pleasure to meet you.
For having me so much.
Pleasure to meet. Yeah, I know you. But it's good. And if you're listening to the Studio PTBO podcast for the first time, I really, really appreciate it. We're in a remote version of the Studio PTBO podcast. If you're listening to a replay, we are going through a pandemic right now. So that's why we're doing a remote version of the podcast. I really thank you for listening today. If you are an entrepreneur, business owner that is looking to grow and scale your business in the online space, we have a Studio PTBO Marketing Hacks group. It's a free group that is just entrepreneurs coming together that are just passionate about business, passionate about serving their clients. So there's a link in the comments section below. We'd love to see you on the inside. Thank you for tuning in the Studio PTBO podcast. We will see you soon.